Raoul confidently informs his young companion that her chances of surviving the Deathlands are minimal, while simultaneously boasting of his own claim to the throne. She turns away silently, and he continues his mocking laughter, after which the narrative shifts to the castle the following morning. At dawn, the young traveler waves from her carriage as she leaves the capital, accompanied by servants and loyal townspeople, while the narrator clarifies, neither her father nor her brother came to say goodbye. Meanwhile, Raoul, left alone, sits on his bed and admits to himself that he wishes he could say goodbye. He recalls his unsuccessful attempts to find Layla and, pulling back the curtain, feels a growing emptiness. At that moment, Layla unexpectedly appears in the carriage, stunning the young man, who is perplexed as to why she's there. She then declares her unwavering readiness to follow him even to condemned lands, emphasizing her word. The maid then intervenes with a sharp remark, emphasizing her own status as a personal assistant and assuring that she will remain by his side no matter whether they end up in hell or within the demonic realm. Renya similarly declares her intention to follow them anywhere, demonstrating her fortitude and determination to remain part of the path she has chosen. Meanwhile, one of the girls hesitates to respond, but another asks if she agrees with the decision. The third calmly confirms that this is exactly what she wants to do, thus ending the argument. Layla thanks her companion, causing her to blush in embarrassment, and then quietly whispers that now they will finally be alone. The girl quickly denies her words, trying to convince herself that it was all just a figment of her imagination. Then their carriage moves slowly along the country roads in the direction of the lands of death, and the girl feels an unusual lightness, realizing that Layla's presence makes the road less frightening, although the anxiety of the inevitable still remains. Meanwhile, Leonard sits on the porch, perplexed as to why he hasn't received a single donation. Nearby, residents gather around covered wagons while a woman and her child discuss something in hushed tones. The man then reflects on his grueling work, remembering how he stayed late every night, even after returning home, and the city streets behind him seem to reflect the same endless rush. Then Raoul quietly apologizes to himself, feeling tired, and thinks about the need to prepare materials for tomorrow's meeting. He longs for at least a shower, realizing how much he's become a slave to his own schedule. Another character admits that he can no longer keep his eyes open, the image blurs, and he recalls how he once spent late nights playing a craft game during his student years, but later completely lost time for the hobby. Following this, the winged woman joyfully welcomes the seated man into the realm of the gods, introducing herself as the goddess Vesta and informing him that he has recently died. The surprised young man wonders if he really died, at which point another winged girl offers her condolences, while an off-camera voice asks to speak with Mr. Mishima before he resolutely declares his intention to go to his goal. Marietta, meanwhile, explains that they will be reborn in another world, brushing off clarifying questions and urging them not to be interested in the complexities of divine decisions. After this, the angelic figure announces the granting of a special ability, and the seated man reflects that for life in an unfamiliar world, he would need a practical skill, perhaps the power of a craft. Then Raoul remembers a game he enjoyed in his youth and asks for the ability to create objects. Marietta agrees to grant him this request and immediately grants him this power. The prince wonders if he is deprived of a gift because of this ability, then remembers how rare his reincarnation into the royal family was and the significance of the chance to create things, which he strangely forgot. Renya gently wakes Theo, telling him it's time to get up, as they've arrived. He's surprised to find himself kneeling next to her, but she calmly reassures him and apologizes for the awkward moment. Raoul, maintaining his self-confidence, tells his companion that her chances of surviving in the land of death are slim, while boasting of his future royal title. She turns away without responding, while he continues to laugh smugly, and the action shifts to the next day at the castle. The next morning, the girl waves from her carriage to those who came to see her off as she leaves the capital, accompanied by servants and several townspeople. The narrator clarifies that neither her father nor her brother showed up to say goodbye. Meanwhile, Raoul sits on the bed, silently noting his desire to at least say goodbye. He recalls searching for Layla and finding her nowhere, after which he finds himself alone in the heavy silence, peering out from behind the curtain into the empty hallway. Then Layla suddenly appears right in the carriage, causing the young man to doubt what is happening, but she remains by his side without hesitation, declaring that she will follow him even to the condemned lands, no matter how difficult it may be. After this, one of the maids suddenly intervenes, assuring him that she is his personal assistant and intends to accompany him even to hell or other forbidden lands, demonstrating her unwavering loyalty. Renya displays the same firmness, declaring that she will follow them wherever the path leads, her determination visible in the reserved yet confident expression on her face. Then one of the girls hesitantly tries to say something important, another clarifies her opinion, and the third calmly confirms that she completely agrees with what is happening, thereby reinforcing the group's decision. Layla thanks her interlocutor, causing her to blush, and then quietly whispers that now they will finally be alone. The girl, however, turns away in embarrassment, convincing herself she had only imagined these words. Then the carriage, passing through the rural plains, moves toward the Deathlands. The companion feels her anxiety recede, for far from the capital, with Layla by her side, the journey seems less difficult, though the uncertainty still weighs heavily. Meanwhile, Leonard sits on the porch, wondering why he hasn't received any help, watching as the villagers gather around the covered wagons and talk quietly among themselves. One of the men then reflects on his work, recalling how he would stay up late into the night, even after returning home, and the cityscape behind him made him feel extremely tired. After this, Raoul quietly apologizes to himself, feeling exhausted, and reflects on the upcoming meeting, dreaming of at least a warm shower, fully aware of how much he has driven himself into slavery to routine. Another character admits that his strength is running out, his eyes are closing on their own, and the blurring of his vision evokes memories of his student years, when he dreamed of a craft game for which he has long since ceased to have time. The winged woman then joyfully greets the man in the kingdom of the gods, introducing herself as Vesta and announcing his death, which becomes his first shock since his passing. The astonished young man tries to comprehend his own death, while another heavenly girl expresses her condolences, and an invisible voice invites him to speak with Mr. Mishima, who is already determined to continue on his way. Marietta calmly explains that a new birth in another world awaits them and asks them not to ask questions, hinting at the complexity of divine laws that cannot be explained in simple words. An angelic girl announces the gift of a special power, and a man ponders what practical ability would be useful in an unknown world and imagines a craft gift. Then Raoul recalls his former addiction to the crafting game and asks for an ability similar to that of his past. Marietta quickly agrees and grants him the power he desires. The prince wonders if the denial of the gift is connected to his new power, and recalls how rare it was to be reborn into the royal family and the chance to create things that he had previously ignored for some reason. Renya gently wakes Theo upon arrival, and he looks around in confusion when he notices he is kneeling in front of her, but she calmly assures him that everything is fine, apologizing for the unexpected timing. Leonard sits on the bench, irritated by his own tardiness, while Marietta waves her hand reproachfully, explaining that because of his late awakening, the driver began to lose patience. Nearby, a girl with short dark hair, barely holding back tears, realizes that they have finally reached the Deathlands, a barren land of dead trees under a heavy, leaden sky. Afterwards, Raoul discusses with Marietta the cold of the previous night and the unsuitability of these lands for life, but she assures him that he can warm up if he stays closer. He, however, doubts whether this will be enough. Meanwhile, Raoul, gathering his resolve, declares that they need to find a place to live for both of them, and Marietta is surprised by his seriousness. Elisha, however, is confident that opportunities will arise soon. One of the girls recalls how she was captivated by the craft game during her student years, and now, after thinking about it, decides to try using such a power again after such a long break. Then Raoul asks if someone can cut down the nearby trees, but the long-haired companion confidently takes it upon herself and prepares a weapon, showing a firm intention to help. Marietta easily breaks a thick branch, checking to see if everything is alright, after which the other girl thanks her. The young man announces that he plans to build a house, and Marietta asks what he plans to use it for. Next, two people stand in front of a massive pile of logs and rocks. One is about to leave, the other reminds them of the need for the rocks, and suddenly, a huge boulder falls right on top of the first. Raoul asks permission to step in and do the job for someone else, but the girl insists that everything needs to be put together and that she should be allowed to finish what she started. Then he shows her something important. Leonard reflects on the goddess's gift, admitting that he has never used it and has never created anything as large as a house before, even though he was promised the opportunity to use this power. The girl realizes that the divine instrument allows her to know, shape, and transform any substance, creating what is born in the imagination, observing the shining structure of logs and floating cubes. Near an impressive wooden structure, a girl loudly shouts the name of the autocraft ability, and her silver-haired companion watches anxiously, while the dark-haired one happily confirms that everything worked. Raoul tries to reach out to Theo, but he ends up in the soft embrace of Marietta, who is surprised by his lack of gift, while Raoul secretly regrets that he missed his own chance. Blushing and holding back his excitement, Raoul quietly apologizes, but someone off-camera assures him that it's nothing and invites everyone to enter the new house. Two girls walk into a spacious room with wooden benches and a fireplace, noticing the amazing finishes, and one notes that the kitchen does not look like it was made entirely of wood and stone, contrary to expectations. Then another one wonders if it's possible to use clothes instead of materials, and, deciding to test it, vigorously activates Autocraft, creating a cozy bed, quite suitable for a night's rest. Renya appears in revealing nightwear, causing Raoul obvious embarrassment, and then calmly says that she intends to go to bed, while he hastily offers to prepare a second bed for her. Raoul explains that he must remain in a position to protect the others, so it is better for them to share a common bed that will provide warmth and allow them to keep the situation under control without blocking the room. The girl quickly tells Layla that she understood what was said, after which someone else calls out to Layla, and night gradually descends on the house, plunging it into a restrained silence. Elisha lies down behind Raoul, teasing him slightly about being too close, while he awkwardly insists she's imagining things. However, she firmly asserts that the distance has truly become too close. Vane, flushed and breathing heavily, lies beside Renya, who allows him to do as he sees fit, as the narrative marks the end of their first day in the lands of death. The girl remembers that she survived only thanks to Layla and her rare gift, after which she is assured that she will remain safe as long as she is nearby, and soon rushes towards the large building, feeling a surge of determination. Then Raoul and Marietta are startled by a sudden noise, and the young man is about to check the source, despite Marietta's warning about the possible danger, who stubbornly declares that she will go with him. Meanwhile, Raoul is in despair at the sight of the Minotaur, not understanding why it rushed at them, and in panic repeats what he should do, gradually realizing the need to escape. Renya supports the frightened girl and quickly clarifies her condition, while Raoul watches from the side, feeling growing anxiety. Theo is asked to stay behind, and someone nearby clarifies whether the creature is a product of the Deathlands, while the figure standing in front of the beast remarks on the bravery of the one who interrupted their moment with Theo. Raoul then tries to warn Layla of the danger, but her confidence in her own abilities remains unchanged. He himself doubts whether he will always have to face such threats and whether it is worth leaving her alone. Layla warns Prince Theo of the risk of injury, but he insists on facing the threat head-on as another ominous figure approaches them. After this, Raoul suggests reusing the materials from the destroyed house, but Marietta confidently takes matters into her own hands, while Renya watches in silence, amazed by her determination. The girl advises giving free rein to the imagination, emphasizing the absence of limits to creativity as long as the little animal listens, and the cheerful companion adds that one can also create what exists in nature. The young man excitedly activates the giant axe, and the enormous blade hangs above him, ready for use. Raoul then swings a heavy log, watching the gears move and an axe appear, realizing that his gift is not a combat weapon like Nil's abilities, despite the turbulent action around him. At this moment, the girl furiously rushes at the monster, declaring that she has no right to give in, and her two comrades watch the fight with the firm intention of supporting. Meanwhile, the dark-haired youth clenches his fist, stunned by the successful outcome, but then hears someone call him Prince Theo, and remembers his feeling of loss after being exiled from the capital. Raoul enthusiastically praises the prince's abilities, holding him tightly, and Marietta watches with genuine admiration, calling him incredible, while Theo reacts sheepishly. Raoul then compares the experience to a game he played as a student, discussing life in forgotten lands and his own gift for crafting items from available resources, and admits how excited he is about the possibilities that have opened up. Layla inquires about their future plans, and the young man notes that he has already found a goal, although he understands that everything will be much more difficult than in the game, and many trials await him ahead. The girl enthusiastically declares that their task is to reclaim the lands of death, while the blonde companion joyfully picks him up in her arms, calling such an ambition admirable and asking if he can afford to rest. The story then shifts to the bleak landscape of the northern edge of Fernia, known as the Deathlands. The cheerful hero is surprised that they are actually here and ponders what to do today, remembering that yesterday they secured housing for themselves. Layla happily devours the prepared food, noting its amazing taste, while the other person sheepishly admits that it is inferior to the castle dishes, but still praises Layla for her skillful use of the supplies she brought. The girl offers to share the food equally if someone doesn't have enough, but the boy insists that she needs to eat too, and then she asks them to open their mouths, offering a piece as a caring gesture. They then discuss the rapidly depleting supplies and conclude that the first priority is to establish a farm to provide stable food and further increase the population. Afterwards, the two silently watch as the stone slides across the cracked earth. The girl explains that the soil here is dead and unsuitable for sowing, and the boy gradually comes to understand the full nature of the lands of death. Raoul acknowledges how difficult the task ahead will be, while Marietta explains that a natural disaster once struck these territories, saturating the land with miasma. The kingdom attempted to resettle the area many times, but to no avail, so Raoul decides to do everything possible. Raoul casts the autocraft spell, creates 2 stone pickaxes, and excitedly notes that his gift is actually proving useful. After this, Raoul and Marietta diligently cultivate the land, loosen the soil and continue to work, while the girl, catching her breath, watches how much space they have already managed to prepare. By the end of the day, they finish fertilizing the area and hope that their efforts will allow at least some of the plants to germinate. The girl sank down onto the table, exhausted, and admitted to herself that she had no idea how hard farming would be. The group discusses the lack of resources. One dreams of a bathhouse, another supports it, but everyone understands that the water is contaminated and will have to be conserved while sharing the remaining food. The girl, sweaty and depressed, reflects on how problems are piling up one after another. Even though she expected difficulties, then the narrative shifts again to the dark lands of death. In a dim room, someone comes to their senses, and then the girl insistently explains to Layla that they should sleep in separate beds, although Layla decides to at least try to somehow fix the situation. She notices that one of her companions has already fallen asleep as soon as he touches the pillow, and remembers that it was he who got up earlier than everyone else, prepared the food, and worked on the farm much more than she did. The girl feels completely useless as she watches the other woman sleep peacefully, after which she clenches her fist and decides to try harder. Seema is about to go to bed, determined to work twice as hard as Layla tomorrow, but the winged girl calls him Monsieur Mishima and reminds him that he now bears the name Theodulf. Then another girl happily greets the surprised young man, who suddenly falls back upon hearing her question about whether she is back. Raoul anxiously suggests that he may have already died, but Alicia explains that she merely summoned his consciousness, admitting that she is constantly nervous, and prepares to continue the conversation. The girl bows low, accepting the blame for what happened, while the young man remembers how, at 13, he did not receive the gift and was expelled, now realizing that the reason was his innate autocraft. Marietta apologizes for her own carelessness, and Wayne warns that a person cannot be given 2 or more gifts, otherwise the heart will burst, and the body will spill fluids through all the orifices. Meanwhile, the dark-haired girl sincerely thanks for such a wonderful gift, and the winged figure with a halo politely bows his head, accepting her gratitude. Renya calls out to Theo through tears. He feels a slight sense of déjà vu as she apologizes and hands him something important, and he accepts it, ready to receive what is offered. The characters gaze in awe at the glowing metal ingot, described as a divine material imbued with the power of the gods, and cautiously reach out their hands towards its glow, feeling awe before it. Marietta then quietly asks Raoul to keep the secret, explaining that such a rare thing cannot be brought into the mortal realm, but that he has the right to take it. After this, she admits that she considers him special and gives him a small gift. After this, Marietta cheerfully wishes everyone good luck and promises support, turning away with a slight smile, while the others watch her with surprise, respect and slight mockery, accepting her blessing. Soon the girl suddenly wakes up, shouting the name of the goddess, and, looking around the empty room, realizes that it was just a vivid dream, leaving clear images in her memory. Layla looks slightly surprised, and the maid, shifting from foot to foot, tries to ask her a painful question. Meanwhile, the other two discuss how Prince Theo completely ignored one of them, causing her displeasure. Then Raoul asks if it is really about something solid, but is embarrassed when the girl decisively rejects the hint, explaining that it is simply a natural phenomenon without any deep meaning. After this, Raoul clarifies what kind of object lies before them, and, realizing that it is divine metal, thanks the higher powers, and Marietta notices that Prince Theo has only just woken up, although the earth around. The girl is shocked that the soil has turned back into a barren wasteland overnight, while the boy explains that this was originally dead land, completely unsuitable for farming. After this, Marietta convinces them to try again, insisting on changing the fertilizer and testing everything available, while the other one hesitates but listens while Marietta explains ways to test different crops. At that moment, someone calls Layla in a loud voice, and she looks down, doubting her own usefulness, squeezing her fingers on the wooden surface and wondering if she should work harder. They try to persuade her to rest after yesterday, but she refuses, considering manual labor obligatory, and then resolutely returns to the intended task. Elisha reminds him that training with Theo was not just a formality, then notes that pointless work will not yield results, and suggests starting by finding the right fertilizer, carefully studying the soil. The girl shudders when she hears that the soil is considered deadly and can only be purified by a divine gift. The blonde asks to see the dangerous area, and the dark-haired girl, visibly nervous, points to the contaminated ground. She then notices the text hanging in the air and realizes she cannot touch it. The lines describe the soil as being of inferior quality, saturated with harmful air, and indicate that only divine blessing can change it. The girl ponders whether a blessing is really required for cultivation, and then joyfully thanks the goddess for such a practical gift that can save their situation. She assumes that it was the blessing that manifested at that moment, while the other watches with interest. Meanwhile, a document about the divine metal appears, causing obvious surprise in the reader. Then someone explains that this metal was created by the gods themselves and that any tool made from it receives divine support and special properties. The girl realizes that the goddess foresaw what was happening and gave her the ability to analyze and recognize divine metal, after which she decides to use it to cleanse the contaminated land and activates autocraft with firm determination. Meanwhile, the girl smashes the wooden debris, shouting a command to destroy, then excitedly prepares to fuse the wood with the divine metal, while the cloaked figure conjures a glowing auto-creation spell. At the end, the girl lifts a massive, ornately decorated agricultural tool and confidently pronounces the name of her technique, announcing the birth of How Divine. Vine slams the tool into the ground with force, and Renya, watching Prince Theo's action, is surprised, trying to understand the meaning of such a sharp movement. Raoul then swings his weapon, amazed to see that his blow has had no effect, and then drops to one knee, realizing that the ground has not changed at all, although the weapon is still firmly stuck in the ground. Meanwhile, the girl reads the description of the blessing of the divine land, which bestows the greatest treasures upon those who live there, and in response is filled with quiet hope. Then Layla joyfully shouts out that everything worked out, and the character standing next to her reacts to her delight and surprise and quickly calls her by name. Raoul explains that the soil can be cleared with a hoe, making it possible to grow crops, and Elisha instantly perks up, half-jokingly calling him her Prince Theo. After this, Renya suddenly hugs Marietta, causing her to blush in surprise. Marietta only has time to note that everything happened thanks to Layla and the goddess. The girl thanks everyone with genuine joy, believing that she has finally been of use, but suddenly feels a fever, and the prince hurries to offer to carry her to bed, while a notice informs that the plot of land has been received. Meanwhile, Vesta is quietly watching someone inside the glowing bubble, and the other girl curiously asks if she continues to watch him out of worry. Athena enthusiastically reports that Theo is amazing, as he turned the divine metal given to her into a fully functional hoe, sincerely admiring his ingenuity. Then she becomes indignant that he always chooses pretty girls for his heroes, and he justifies himself by saying that the chosen hero does not at all meet her expectations. Raoul chides himself for not noticing the obvious, calling himself a devoted admirer of Theo, while Marietta insists that Theo's small figurine deserves attention, since it is clearly connected to her favorite hero. Renya warmly supports Theo, who is holding an open book intently, and the small winged creature assures him that now he will not miss a single detail. Raoul explains that he spent the previous night reviewing documents on the kingdom's previous attempts to reclaim the land, noting that the noxious air only contaminates the surface, while underground remains a safe environment, which could be crucial. The girl enthusiastically uses her creation skill and summons pure underground water, while the woman watching her calmly assesses the result, and a moment later, both examine the well that has appeared. Two girls joyfully clink wooden mugs, one celebrates her good luck, and the other proudly calls her friend her Prince Theo again. Afterwards, the group celebrates receiving the water, and someone admits that they expected an easier process, while another reminds them that all that remains is to plow the plot, sow, and water it, so that the harvest will finally be possible. Theo collapses on the ground from exhaustion, complaining about the endless work, while Marietta comes with water and cautiously inquires about his condition, and he asks only for a short respite. Then Marietta decides to take on the task herself, and the girl sitting nearby assures him that he hasn't collapsed from exhaustion yet, so he really does need to rest. Elisha insistently urges someone to stop, reminding them that overexertion is no joke, and another character sighs heavily and acknowledges the truth of her words. Raoul stretches out on the ground, dreaming of a tractor, then calculates how many days it would take to build it, but honestly admits that he still doesn't have the necessary materials. Raoul admits he doesn't understand what a tractor is, but advises finding helpers or tamed livestock. Then the girl with long, light brown hair asks where they can even get animals in a place where no one dares to settle. Meanwhile, another participant insists that creating creatures using autocrafting is morally unethical, while her companion examines a glowing transmutation circle with a disturbing inscription about human transformation. Layla then nervously refuses to try something too risky, fearing the consequences, but her friend cheerfully assures her that it's just a joke. After this, Layla suddenly perks up, while the former swears that the proposed idea was sincere. Raoul firmly declares that he intends to create something they do not have, but Marietta abruptly stops this impulse, once again questioning the morality of creating living beings and considering such experiments unacceptable. After this, the cheerful girl begins to enthusiastically describe the advantages of a creature that obeys orders and performs hard work tirelessly, while the maid standing nearby thoughtfully goes over the necessary materials in her mind. The narrative then clarifies the nature of magicite as a stone imbued with magical power, mined from monsters and used as a weapon amplifier, a power source, and the basis for magical constructs, before showing a glowing crystal. The girl feels like a worthless servant and worries that she can't please her master, then offers to compensate for her inability with her own body. Meanwhile, the others confirm that they have obtained the monster's magic and all the required components. Then one of them explains that a structure created from stone and earth unquestioningly follows its owner, and usually alchemists do this, but she is sure that with her gift, one can raise the creation with one's own strength. Leonard then autocrafts a massive stone golem, and the giant rises from the ground with a powerful shove, causing the entire group to fall back in amazement. Renya is genuinely amazed that Leonard was able to bring the golem to life, and then he orders the creature to work in the fields, after which the golem suddenly turns its head sharply, as if responding to the call. The girl, giving in to an impulse, rushes towards him, but soon realizes her mistake, as the golem suddenly rushes forward, forcing her to freeze in surprise. The boy, on the other hand, enthusiastically climbs onto the enormous creature and orders it to move, while the maid runs up in a hurry and demands an explanation, hearing assurances that the creature is not showing hostility. At this time, Marietta irritably admits that she does not intend to tolerate this, and even jealously asks why this is happening, while Raoul carries his surprised companion in his arms, and Renya notes that he has clearly become attached to them. Theo ponders whether golems can experience emotions, and Alicia reproaches him for his unconventional method of creation, but then turns to the golem herself, testing whether it can till the land with a hoe, and considers the test a success. Then the call to prepare is heard, and a powerful blow falls to the ground, raising a wave of dust. The girl watches in delight, admiring the spectacular power of the event. The girl encourages the golem to continue working on the plot, while another watches from afar. Later, they discuss the installation of stakes while the golem carefully waters the planted seeds. The dark-haired girl happily admits that she is looking forward to the coming months, while inside the house another reassures that the food problem will soon be resolved, and receives quiet agreement. Then Raoul cries out in amazement that he can't believe his own eyes, because the plants have already reached maturity, and the entire group looks at the fully grown crops in amazement. The observation highlights the astonishing fact that vegetables can indeed ripen out of season in the blessed soil. Then the girl, the boy, and the giant walk through the lush greenhouse, marveling at the harvest that has emerged in just one day. Finally, Alicia triumphantly announces that the food crisis is finally solved, and Marietta happily agrees as they both reach for a huge basket filled with fresh vegetables. Raoul explains that, thanks to the blessed soil, the vegetables have almost doubled in size overnight, and then decides to try one of the fruits, expressing his firm intention to verify their quality. Meanwhile, the girl with the ponytail picks up the tomato, declaring that she will test it for poison, and seeing the test results are positive, she prepares to continue. A nearby maid nods in agreement and prepares her tools. Afterwards, the same girl is amazed by the rich umami and sweetness of the juicy fruit, noting that the taste is almost reminiscent of meat, and involuntarily doubts whether this fruit can be considered an ordinary vegetable. Alicia asks if Prince Theo is feeling well, offering him a choice morsel. He accepts the treat gratefully, expressing that it truly suits him. Raoul then excitedly remarks on the excessive deliciousness of these products and suggests that they will be even better after cooking, while Marietta thoughtfully tastes her tomato. Marietta admits that she hates cooking, nervously clutching freshly picked vegetables, but someone reassures her, saying that she is too worried, just as the announcement that dinner is ready sounds. Further images show detailed dishes: corn soup with chickpeas, tempura of 5 types of vegetables, multicolored steamed vegetables with miso sauce, and vegetable-based cabbage rolls. Raul declares that the food looks delicious, and Marietta asks everyone to begin without delay, carefully placing the dishes in front of those present. The two girls happily remark on how delicious the food is, surrounded by a scattering of sparkling seafood and other dishes, their faces reflecting genuine satisfaction. Afterwards, one of them enthusiastically describes the crispy tempura, emphasizing that it almost doesn't feel like a vegetable dish, while the steamed vegetables bring out the umami and pair perfectly with the miso. Alicia is amazed at the tenderness and juiciness of the vegetable cabbage rolls, and the others readily agree, finding the dish incredibly delicious and masterfully prepared. Alicia then reports that the harvest has been collected and everyone is well fed, after which she asks Gorm about the materials collected. He confirms the task has been completed, and Raul happily thanks him for the large amount. After this, Alicia inquires about their future plans. Gorm explains the golem's purpose and its name. Marietta suggests using water to relieve fatigue, and Alicia asks if they plan to build a separate room, but Gorm hints at an entirely different project. A girl confidently announces the launch of an open-air hot spring autocraft, standing next to a maid near a wooden structure. She nostalgically compares the place to a luxurious ryokan in Japan, recalling how long it has been since she enjoyed such a bath, while a girl standing nearby praises Prince Theo for creating such a magnificent bathhouse. Raul hands the maid a sponge, explaining its purpose, then she remains silent while he heads to the men's section of the baths, promising to check later that everything is alright with her, despite the rush. The dark-haired girl emphasizes that helping her master is her duty, while the fair-haired companion notes that the nature of their relationship strictly follows the master-servant model. The dark-haired girl then admiringly admits that she has never seen such a landscape before, even when she lived in the capital in a past life, and is impressed by the views that open up. The narrative notes that none of them have ever experienced such luxury. One of the heroines hopes that her companion will remain by her side despite his weakness, and he promises to follow her, believing that their arrival in the lands of death was the right decision. Finally, the fox-eared girl remarks that it is extremely unusual to see a human child in such a place, gazing thoughtfully at the night sky. At dawn, Theodul trains with Layla, honing his blade, and then spends the day walking the fields and harvesting crops, understanding that neglecting the lands of the gods is unacceptable. Meanwhile, before bed, Theodul invariably spends his daily reading time with Layla. This quiet ritual becomes a valuable time for him to reflect and prepare for the future, underscoring his dignified life in the lands of death. After this, Leonard cannot sleep for a long time, realizing that his life is stable, but his true purpose is still missing. He is also saddened by the fact that only 2 residents remain, so he decides to go out for a short while to breathe the night air. Raul then reflects that anyone who lived here would sooner or later be considered a full-fledged inhabitant of these territories, but he admits that before him lies the bleak edge of death. He suggests that someone might have come by chance from the nearby fields, and admits that such an unexpected appearance is entirely possible. At this time, the girl encounters a huge wolf under the moonlit sky and, seized with panic, realizes that there is a monster in front of her, desperately trying to decide what to do. The next moment, she notices a mysterious glow, reminiscent of a divine aura, while the wolf watches her closely, causing her to question even more about the nature of what she saw. The girl is then amazed to see a dark-haired young man next to the building, and the white wolf calmly reassures him, calling him a child of the human race. A massive wolf, introducing himself as Luna and calling himself the noble divine wolf Fenrir, leaves the girl confused and doubtful, as before her stands a legendary creature, almost forgotten and endowed with sacred power. Under the starry sky, a huge beast warns the young man not to be wary, explaining that he has not come to fight. After this, a large wolf appears in the glow, causing the girl to look puzzled. The beast notes that her wariness is natural given her appearance, and the girl involuntarily reacts with surprise. Alicia confidently remarks that it is indeed easier to converse this way, which shocks Leonard, who wonders if she has become human. She then apologizes for the fright and asks for a small favor. The girl asks if she can share some of her harvest, causing surprise among the woman standing next to her, who does not understand the reason, since the request does not seem at all hostile. Raul offers his guest as much food as she wants, assuring her that there is enough supply. She thanks him for the treat and wonders whether such food would please a being like a goddess. The girl with cat ears tastes the dish with delight, declaring that in 1,000 years she has not tasted anything so amazing, admiring its noble and rich taste. She explains that 1,000 years ago the lands were not yet engulfed by miasma, and although their fertility was inferior to today's, crops there still grew well. The narrative goes on to recall that a massive war broke out then, devastating the area and turning it into a tormented space seething with toxic fumes. Raoul recalls that he always thought of the Deathlands as being destroyed by war and disaster, and then asks Luna if she lives here, suggesting the possibility of resettlement, and receives consent. After this, Raoul stands under the stars and calls this land his precious homeland, while Marietta thinks that even a devastated homeland remains close to the heart, and is glad that he feels the same. The girl quietly calls out to the moon, and then the scene smoothly transitions to a conversation where someone explains that the moon has once again brought blessings to the earth. The girl on the bench calmly asks the young man his name, and he, slightly embarrassed, replies that he has not yet introduced himself and that his name is Theodule Foran. Marietta then thanks Theodule for what he did and insists that she must repay him in kind, claiming that as Fenrir she cannot let it go unanswered, while Raoul watches with genuine interest. After this, Renya gently touches the forehead of her surprised interlocutor with a light kiss, explaining that this is Fenrir's blessing and apologizing that this is all she is capable of for now. Under the night sky, she says goodbye to Theodule, admitting that she hasn't enjoyed communication this much in a long time, and watches as he moves away from the building. The girl confirms that she has indeed lived in the lands of death for 1,000 years, but when he abruptly asks her to wait, she turns and looks at him intently. He then asks if she would agree to become a resident of his estate, causing her to look up in surprise, while he himself stands outside the building in noticeable excitement. The girl with cat ears replies that she will return another time, and the dark-haired companion admits that the invitation came unexpectedly and asks for a little time, as she needs to take several important circumstances into account. Then the cat smiles brightly, promising to give a better gift next time, and asks to get ready for that moment. The girl blushes, thinking about the possible gift, while Theodule Foran, in the form of a wolf, wishes her luck, and she replies that she will definitely see him again soon. After this, the young man decides not to tell Layla about what happened, thinking that someone truly significant might appear later, and the narrative smoothly moves on to the beginning of another ordinary day for Theodule. The girl is picking berries from the bushes, but suddenly freezes and looks around, feeling that from this moment their life could take a new turn. Meanwhile, another one hides behind a tree, visibly worried, and yet another, lying on the ground, calls for help in a weak voice, hinting that the quiet routine is coming to an end. The girl with the braids barely has time to utter a plea for support before she collapses to the ground, and the two immediately rush to her side, while one of them urgently orders Layla to bring the first aid kit. Having come to her senses, the stranger looks around the room in confusion, and the person standing next to her asks how she feels. The girl replies that she is fine and then asks who saved her, after which the two figures identify themselves as Layla and Theo, mentioning that she passed out right in front of the house, and then she thanks them for their concern. The new arrival, who introduces herself as Aisha, quietly introduces herself, and one of the people sitting nearby asks what brings her here while the three of them are talking in the room. At the same time, Raoul says in a hurry that he must hurry, and the girl with a bandage on her head, hearing this, widens her eyes and begins to look around tensely. The maid asks Layla if there are any medicinal herbs left from the castle, and she promises to prepare them immediately, but another woman demands that Layla continue to rest after the sudden pain. The medicinal plant is described as a nourishing herb that, when mixed, becomes a wound remedy. The girl then gathers her strength, preparing to use an advanced autocraft technique. Marietta is amazed by what is happening, and someone hands her a healing potion, assuring her that it will do her good, after which the girl agrees to drink it. The girl downs the prepared potion in one gulp and is amazed to feel her body begin to glow softly, after which she asks if Theo is a magician or an alchemist. He modestly confirms, and she promises to repay the debt someday as he prepares to leave. Elisha then asks Theo if Fornos is nearby, and Raoul recalls that it is a fortified city infested with monsters. Theo confirms that they are still in the lands of death. After this, Raoul asks what happened, and Marietta anxiously admits that she chose the wrong direction and now must hurry before the others notice her mistakes. The girl explains that her village is being attacked by goblins, and in the distance a remote area is shown, where two short creatures are already approaching. Marietta and her young companion are amazed by what they hear, and the narrative goes on to explain that goblins are small demonic creatures, weak when alone, but acting in packs and capable of understanding human speech. The girl then says that she lives in the Moa settlement, which belongs to the kingdom of Vida, and says that a few days ago a group of goblins came to the village. Raul adds to the story, explaining that the goblins took advantage of their helplessness and demanded more and more food, even when the villagers complained that there would be nothing left for themselves. After this, a crowd of goblins demanded that the women be handed over, and the girl, silently realizing the horror of the possible fate of the captives, listens to the explanation that the residents rejected the demand, despite threats of reprisals. The girl recalls running away while two goblins chased her, shouting to catch up with the fugitive, and reports that she left the village in search of help. Raul doubts whether it is worth going to Fornos, suggesting to contact Lord Vida, but the girl with braids replies that she, of course, has already tried. Then she recalls hearing from the local ruler that help was not needed for such a remote village, and the young man confirms that he had heard about such an attitude for a long time. The narrative goes on to describe Lord Witt as a tyrant who ignored his subjects, imposed exorbitant taxes, and provided no support even during a famine. Having thanked her for her concern, the girl is about to leave, but the silver-haired girl asks her to wait and looks thoughtfully towards the warehouse outside the window. She asks if this room is a storage room, and the others confirm that they have collected the necessary materials here in advance. She carefully examines the space. He then explains that this ability is a secondary branch of autocrafting, reminiscent of game mechanics and recently discovered by them in practice. The girl concentrates on summoning a vortex spatial flow, and the portal expanding before her is filled with bright ring-shaped waves. The blonde is shocked that the warehouse was empty in an instant, and the dark-haired one calmly explains that it is a form of magic that allowed everything to be preserved in the dimension she created. Raul asks Aisha to lead them to Moa's village, which surprises her, while another character remarks that the journey to Fornos will take too long. After this, Raul, leaning on Marietta, declares that they are heading to save the villagers, addressing the hooded figure standing in front of them. Meanwhile, the three move quickly on top of the large creature through a narrow rocky passage, and the girl with the eye patch warns Theo about the danger of saving the village, but he confidently replies that she should leave it to him. Raul stands at the edge of the forest and confidently assumes that the goblins are hiding on the other side of the thicket, feeling not fear, but growing determination in the face of the impending battle. Meanwhile, the girl with the tail decides to take a closer look at the area, remembering that Luna bestowed upon her the blessing of Fenrir, and therefore carefully checks her condition. Then Raul, dumbfounded, asks what is happening, but Vine calmly explains the appearance of an indomitable will and thanks Luna, who silently confirms her understanding. After this, Raul points into the distance, claiming that his village is ahead and everyone there is busy with important business, while Alicia and Leonard anxiously watch the noisy residents. However, it soon becomes clear that a crowd of goblins has attacked the settlement, causing panic among the people, and the girl realizes that the creatures are attacking Aisha's village. The goblins, however, annoyedly ask who these new uninvited guests are. The girl commands Gorm to rush forward and announces that they will jump together, despite the other companions warning about the risk, and then begins the countdown. The trio jumps in unison to a loud count, and the young man asks them not to worry and clarifies their next steps, then takes out a thick fabric from his spatial storage. Meanwhile, Alicia leans over Leonard and Marietta, who are lying on the bed holding hands. Leonard looks confused, Marietta remains calm, but Alicia blushes in embarrassment, and their companions turn away in awkwardness. Two girls scream in surprise when one steps on the other, but the other insists that she is the one to blame, smoothing over the tension. Aisha begs Theo to wait, claiming it is too dangerous to go forward, but he asks her to trust him, even with the creatures surrounding them. The determined young woman then declares that she will save the villagers, and the embarrassed girl hesitantly agrees, sharing her intention. The goblins rush forward furiously, shouting threats, while the golden-haired rival suddenly feels her pulse quicken, not understanding why her heart reacts this way. The young man urges Layla to move forward, and she confirms that she is acting on Prince Theo's orders, preparing to meet the oncoming horde. Meanwhile, Marietta focuses on her sword technique, while Vine proclaims the full opening of the dimensional storage and the beginning of automatic creation. Raul then summons a rain of blades with a wave of his hand, and Marietta adds a silver stream from above, causing the enemies to scatter chaotically from the crushing onslaught. The goblins are confused as they discuss retreating to warn their leader, but the girl orders everyone to stand still and focus on the safety of the villagers, which another member confirms from afar. The young man calls himself Theo and understands that he must earn the trust of these people by acting honestly, otherwise saving the village will be impossible. He then formally introduces himself as Theodulf Ferran, Prince of the Kingdom of Fernia and Lord of the Lands of Death, confidently pronouncing the title under the overcast sky. The girl incredulously asks if he really is a prince, and the villagers doubt the nobility and the royal family. The dark-haired companion considers whether to hide the truth any longer. Finally, the dark-haired girl feels an unexpected recognition when those around her thank Theo for saving her and call him a prince, while the crowd watches him in admiration, and someone on the sidelines politely refuses gratitude. The goblins are discussing fleeing to warn their leader, but the girl insists that it is too early to relax and the threat has not yet passed. Meanwhile, at the entrance to the cave, someone remarks that the enemy is probably hiding in the forest, while the goblin-like creatures insist that the village is too dangerous and that the people have allegedly fled in fear. The slain Goblin King then furiously accuses his subordinates of bringing shame upon their kind and orders the worthless humans to return to their place, loudly demanding that they follow him. After this, the elder Galad Mola expresses deep gratitude to Prince Theodulf, and behind him the inhabitants gather in a tight group near the border of the settlement. The girl cheerfully claims that she simply did what she thought was right, and the man bows low, thanks her for saving him from the goblins, and offers a small token of appreciation. A skillfully cut stone sparkles in the palm of the hand, and two girls look at each other in surprise. One asks what it is, and the other whispers in amazement that it is orichalcum. Then Raoul sharply calls out to the chief, explaining that jewelry and equipment made from this rare, durable metal are considered national relics, and even a small fragment is worth hundreds of gold. Raoul grabs the elderly man by the shoulder, indignantly shouting that such a treasure is the legacy of their ancestors, and demands to know how they could give it to the dogs of the kingdom, calling the act insane. He asks why they were saved in the first place, but the old man sharply rebukes Jack for disregarding his savior, although he insists that a nobleman never risks his life for commoners and is probably hiding his true intentions. Raoul hotly demands confirmation from everyone, but someone off-camera sharply orders him not to talk nonsense, and the girl reflects on how much so many people hate the nobility and the royal family. Marietta resolutely stands up for Theo, assuring him that he is not like other lords, that he came to strangers for help and saved everyone, demanding that they not allow such words to be spoken about him. After this, the group admits that Jack did help them, and the girl tells Prince Theodulf that she has decided to give him the village treasure, since it no longer has the same meaning. The old man says heavily that their village is destined to disappear anyway, no matter how grateful they are. Soon the discussion returns to the goblins hiding in the forest. Some people are sure that they really ran to warn the chief, and several people confirm that this is exactly what they heard. Meanwhile, in a dark cave, a huge, ugly ruler announces that the Goblin King is already waiting in the forest. The girl notes that he is their leader, much stronger and smarter than an ordinary goblin, and seems to be able to defeat even a minotaur or a hut. She claims that the escaped creatures will definitely return with the Goblin King, so it is necessary to evacuate the children and the youngest as quickly as possible. Raoul protests sharply, declaring that he prefers to fight alone rather than abandon the old men to flee, and the older man unexpectedly supports him. Then the determined young man promises to save everyone without exception, and the worried girl and the headman turn to him with respect, calling him their prince. Finally, Raoul asks about the plan of action, and the old man explains that the goblins are watching from all sides, not allowing him to escape, so it is no longer possible to avoid a direct fight. From above, a village can be seen where someone insists on fortifying the perimeter. Nearby, a grown man declares that strong villagers are obliged to protect the house, while a young boy vows to become as strong as his father, though someone doubts their sincerity. Then Raoul exclaims in surprise, and Marietta hurriedly demands more wood and iron. Meanwhile, another man offers gardening tools and the use of his house, which Raoul accepts with gratitude. After this, the girl loudly shouts out the name of the technique, and a young man nearby grumbles that relying on one person is too naive, calling him short-sighted and doubting whether he can be counted on. Meanwhile, wooden fortifications rise above the village, and one of the girls calls out to Prince Theo, taking him by surprise, while the other insists that the defensive lines should be strengthened here too. Renya anxiously supports the young man, asking about his condition, and he admits that he has exhausted his strength excessively, but despite his fatigue, he believes that there is little time left and he must do everything possible. Then a pack of goblins approaches the settlement, and the young defender feels powerless against the threat, even though he is obligated to protect the inhabitants. Meanwhile, another warrior continues to fight, trying to hold back the onslaught to save the village. Raoul panics and asks what he should do, but hears that he is considered the best fighter among the inhabitants, and this suddenly gives him focus and determination. After this, Raoul, clutching his spear tightly, asks if he will be able to protect the people if the fortifications fall, while Leonard, standing nearby naked to the waist, remains on guard. Meanwhile, someone's hand grips a book so tensely, as if expecting a blow, and a voice warns against delusion, declaring its distrust. Then the girl is surprised, and the other two exchange a short, light remark, slightly diffusing the situation. Then another participant asks Aisha if everything is okay. She flinches and explains that she felt someone's gaze on her and thought something had happened, while the third participant awkwardly denies observing. A girl in a headscarf announces that the evacuation of children and the elderly is complete, then asks if there is anything left, while the others enter the nearest building. At a busy construction site, one of the men reports that everything is going smoothly so far. The girl promises to immediately report the slightest change, and then Theo is called in for a moment of conversation. In a mountain village, workers unload boxes, and a girl with a headscarf on her head looks ahead with a soft, thoughtful expression, as if anticipating imminent change. Meanwhile, the monstrous king, at the head of a horde of goblinoids, declares that the moment has come for bloody pleasure, and leads his army in a furious attack through the forest. The leader then viciously calls his followers worthless for fearing the tiny village and threatens to kill several people and take the women to make an example. On a wooden platform, two men draw their bowstrings while a crowned monster is stunned by the sight of a fortified settlement with spikes and a watchtower, clearly not expecting such a defense. At the same time, the figure orders the village to be spared, and the horned warrior leads the army forward. A youth with a spear warns that the enemy's next step will be their last, while the woman nearby remains calm. The girl furiously declares that she will destroy the attackers to the last one, and the monster, in a rage, demands to know how she dares to look down on him. After this, the Goblin King gives the order to attack, and the determined girl prepares to strike. Off to the side, two goblins quarrel, arguing over who will get the women, each claiming to be in charge. Finally, the goblin is startled by a sudden explosion nearby, and the girl gives the command to release the fire, standing in front of a group of drummers and directing the general onslaught. The goblins rush forward, their cries filling the battlefield. One notices a fortified wall, while another already anticipates an easy massacre, confident that all they have to do is break through it. Then Raoul gives the order to kill anyone who climbs over the barrier. At this moment, one of the attackers falls with a broken head, and he encourages the fighters, controlling the work of the guns. After this, Raoul calls out to someone as he falls onto a soft surface. The girl next to him is surprised, and Leonard immediately orders everyone to take cover, confirming the command. Meanwhile, the crowned enemy asks the other if he is their leader, and then declares that victory can only be achieved at the cost of his head, while two small observers watch from a ledge. Renya confidently declares that the path to her comrades lies only through her, and Raoul, curving his lips, remarks that he likes strong women, and invites her to become his wife. Then Renya rejects the offer, reminding that she has already made an oath to another, and the monstrous leader orders his men to capture her carefully, without damaging her face. After this, a figure with long blonde hair and a mask raises a blade, intending to stop the enemy with the Orsten blade technique. Alicia unleashes a Lotus Fifth Arson strike, unleashing power on the enemy as Raoul demands to be restrained as she fights multiple creatures at once. Renya steps in the way again, insisting that she won't let them through, despite the monster insisting otherwise. Meanwhile, she sees a whole wave of goblinoids moving towards them. Then two of the fighters note the Goblin King's cunning in rigging the situation to his advantage, while the third and a small squad prepare for the clash. One of the men urges Prince Theo to retreat and join Gorm for protection, but the young man hesitates, realizing that fleeing would put the inhabitants at risk, and that an armed enemy is already approaching him. The dark-haired girl decides to fight to the end, clutching the hilt of her sword and preparing to stop the enemy here and now. An armored figure taunts the young man, pulling a huge boulder from a space rift and warning him that he is being underestimated. The girl then summons a ballista with a magical pattern, and the monstrous enemy crushes the ground nearby while the throwing mechanism fires a heavy projectile at tremendous speed. At this time, a dark silhouette with a knife mutters that it hates children and intends to stop the protracted game, looming over the smaller figure with a threat. On the other side of the battlefield, the crowned warrior lands heavily, confident that he has cut his opponent in half, but immediately realizes that the blow did not bring the expected result. The girl quickly rises into the air, raising her sword, wondering if the giant with the crown is really right above her. She then dodges the blow of the king, armed with a club, and activates the auto-creation magic circle, acknowledging the risk of the chosen maneuver. Leonard forms blocks under his feet, rising higher to avoid the attack, then leaps over Raoul, calculating that this is his only chance to land a clean strike. In the final scene, the character strikes the beast with disarming speed, relying on surprise as the key to victory. The girl makes a swift attack, confident that her opponent will no longer be able to withstand it, and then decides to demonstrate everything she has achieved during her training. Then Raoul unleashes a silver blow on the monster, and the crown giant tenses his muscles, preparing for a counterattack. After this, the girl is amazed that her blade is unable to cut through the enemy's toughest skin. He sends her flying with a powerful kick, throwing her far back. Meanwhile, Raoul falls to the ground with a scream, and the armored opponent admits that he felt a moment of fear, but immediately notices the weakness of his blade, which lacks strength and sharpness. The girl, coughing and barely able to stay on her knees, nevertheless looks up and is about to continue the fight, while the creature, confident of victory, approaches her, as if putting the final point. After this, the young fighter plunges his spear into the king of the monsters, stunning the girl standing nearby, while he himself tries to comprehend what is happening and understand the logic of this creature's actions. The man scolds his comrade for interfering, realizing that without his help he would already be dead. Meanwhile, Layla holds off the goblins, and Prince Theodule engages in combat with the horde's ruler himself. At the same time, the furious figure demands that someone get away, calling them a worthless insect, while a girl nearby rushes forward, intending to intervene, and another person tries to stop her. A monstrous enemy with glowing eyes mocks people, considering them predictable and pathetic, and the girl lying on the ground feels fear from his presence. Then the young man realizes that he is unable to push off and rise into the air, since his opponent has calculated his action in advance and caught him with his own sword swing. The girl offers to help, then catches up with the young man and touches his shoulder, trying to draw his attention to what is happening around him. The monster notices that the blade has suddenly become significantly faster, while the youth explains his village's treasure as a rare and durable metal, while apologizing to himself for using a damaged weapon. Vine responds by activating auto-creation and transforming the stone into a massive sword, while the youth inquires about the origin of the material, and the elder explains its value as the community's greatest treasure. The action then shifts to a room where an elegant artifact rests on an ornate pedestal, while a voiceover speaks of a divine patron who protects the people in their most difficult times. Raoul then goes on the offensive and unleashes his elemental technique, coating his blade in a silver glow before unleashing a devastating blow on the monster. Raoul is perplexed by his own feelings and tries to attack the monster again, dealing a powerful blow, while another character watches the fight with alarm. The girl can barely stand on her feet, breathing heavily, and the young man standing next to her declares his victory, lowering his sword and demonstrating confidence in his own superiority. Raoul grabs the girl by the collar and praises Theodule for his contribution, and she, having pulled herself together, asserts that she also contributed to the success, not allowing herself to be underestimated. The girl confidently tells her two companions to leave, and the action moves outside, where the three observe a huge creature near a fence in a building. Finally, Theo and Layla celebrate their victory with a hug, while another girl sharply warns someone to stay away, reacting to a sudden movement nearby. The girl, unable to hold back her tears, expresses sincere gratitude, smiling so warmly, as if relief had finally returned to her after a long ordeal. Alicia announces the end of all business and the crowd responds with joyful unanimity, while in the foreground two people embrace by a wooden fence. The girl raises her mug and proposes a toast to the victory and Prince Theodule, after which those around her simultaneously raise their drinks high, celebrating the success with loud shouts. Renya, feeling a surge of peace from the fact that everyone is alive, watches as Marietta wraps Theodule in a warm embrace and admires his actions as he awkwardly tries to comprehend how they got to this point. A woman dressed as a maid sharply demands that Aisha give up her seat, and Layla, visibly frightened, admits that she feels fear at what is happening. Marietta quickly serves the dish she has managed to prepare for Theodule, surprising him with her own speed, while Raoul watches silently in the background. The elder hands the floor over to the young princess, while two girls enthusiastically propose a cooking competition and ask for her assistance. The old man insists that the young couple should have a good time, despite her reservations. The elderly man is lost in quiet reflection, while at a nearby table a noisy group celebrates, attributing their joy to the presence of their patron and hoping that such evenings will become a regular occurrence for them. Raoul watches the auto-creating device in amazement, after which the girl apologizes to the other two, promising to bring them food a little later. A girl with a ponytail asks for attention in a crowded cafe, thanks everyone and gets straight to the point, just as someone's foot steps onto a table leg, catching their eye. A confident young ruler asks those gathered if they wish to become citizens of the lands of death where she rules, and those listening below meet her words with a concentrated silence. The people anxiously discuss the possibility of living there, fearing attacks from monsters and doubting whether they are ready to become subjects of the territory of death, while two women nearby watch in silence. The girl seriously explains that she has a rare gift of restoring dead lands, but she is unable to cope alone, so she asks for strong hands for help. Raoul raises his mug and confidently declares his support, drawing cheers, then challenges those who doubt or fear death, calling only those who will not waver to remain. The girl happily admits her desire to join, a quiet woman follows her, and soon the old man raises his voice, demanding absolute honesty from the others. Many hands rise in agreement, some acknowledging their fear of the Deathlands but expressing confidence in Prince Theodule as a worthy leader. The crowd greets Theodule enthusiastically, shouting his name and proclaiming him the new ruler, wishing him long life and good health with genuine admiration. The assembled continue their feast under the night sky, and in the morning, with the sunrise behind the mountain ranges, a new stage begins for everyone. The travelers set out for the lands of death, loading their belongings into a cart pulled by Korm. After half a day's walk, one of the girls proudly presents her possession. A figure stands in the desolate area near the house, watched from afar by those who have joined, then it confidently calls on everyone to begin building their own homes, activating the dimensional storage. Vine activates his auto-create ability, and a scattering of glowing cubes forms around him, obediently rotating in anticipation of the next action. Layla then discusses the future layout of the houses with her partner, noting that she can easily rebuild the dwellings if necessary and intends to create several buildings at once. Meanwhile, a figure in the middle of the empty street raises his hands, and following the deafening sound, one girl freezes in shock, while the other calmly confirms that everything went exactly as expected. Suddenly, Prince Theo falls to the ground, exhausted, causing cries of alarm, while he himself remains lying there, not understanding what has happened to him and why all the voices sound muffled. A moment later, he comes to his senses, realizing that he lost consciousness due to excessive expenditure of power, and decides to develop endurance when someone enters the room, addressing him. Renya notices that Aisha has woken up, asks worriedly about her condition and is surprised by the unusual outfit the girl has chosen. Meanwhile, two women dressed as servants discuss the idea of working as a domestic servant. One is confident in her great potential and even imagines a cooking competition, after which she quietly confirms that she likes the idea. Layla happily expresses her joy at serving Theo, and then is suddenly struck, causing her to wince in pain. The maid sternly scolds the young man for addressing her master in a familiar manner, while the girl softly repeats his name, but the young man assures her that the casual address does not bother him at all. After this, another girl enters the room, raises her hand and asks about the mood of the inhabitants, and is then asked to look out the window when she is called Prince Theo. Elisha reports that everyone is incredibly happy with their new life, and the girl feels genuine satisfaction, hoping that happiness will strengthen even more, and then thinks about what to do today. The scene shifts to the royal capital of Fernia, where a majestic castle towers over the city that sprawls at its foot. In the throne room, the king of Fernia, Gauss Discar Ferran, commends Alice Scarlet's latest achievement, praising her outstanding work. Alice modestly claims that she only did what any hero would do, but the figure standing next to her assures her that she is fully worthy of her title, and the girl responds with warm gratitude. Meanwhile, two girls sternly reprimand the man standing above them, demanding that he behave decently in front of the king and not display unacceptable insolence. Sanat, visibly nervous and wiping away sweat, begs everyone to watch their words, while Martina, clutching her stomach, asks Alice to check on her condition. One of the girls asks if Theodule will be present, and the older man confirms that his son will definitely attend the celebration of the recent triumph, while the two girls listen in silence. Raoul admits that he and Leonard have been friends for a long time, thanks him for his patience with his rash actions and assures him that now they no longer have anything to worry about, which prompts the girl to clarify what he means. The figure on the throne states that a certain man either fled or died where he was, and was therefore exiled to the lands of death, while another interlocutor asks in astonishment how anyone could have done such a stupid thing. A determined girl threatens to kill her, while a man standing nearby apologizes for the tired leader and offers to stop, but a third figure confidently declares that he will make her suffer, despite her refusal. Meanwhile, the dark-haired man laughs loudly, holding back the struggling woman who insists on the right to go out to the duel, and the figure on the throne reluctantly agrees to her participation. The girl then sharply demands an explanation as to why Sana was stopped, reminding him that an attempt on the king's life would result in execution, while outside the door the two exchange glances and call each other fools. She insists that this man is not her future husband, denying any hints, while another participant asks her to be more reserved towards the monarch, mentioning his prohibition regarding Theo. The conversation then turns to Theo's precarious situation and the need to leave the capital, with one of the interlocutors expressing dislike for the royal family, while the other admits that he no longer wishes to meet with that very man, turning to Alice. The self-confident young man then introduces himself as Prince Niels, emphasizing his chosenness by the goddess and his status as heir, demanding a more respectful attitude from the commoners. In response to Raoul's question, Marietta replies that she has no time to talk and quickly leaves, while Leonard tries to stop her, intending to make an important proposal. Raoul then boldly approaches Alice, demanding her consent to become his wife, which stuns her, and the narrative reminds her that the elder brother has disappeared and Theophile has been exiled to the lands of death, making Raoul a likely future king. He explains that the alliance will give him the trust of his subjects and make governing the country easier, and then asks if they have abandoned their intention to exterminate the monsters. From a distance, Raoul mockingly belittles them, calling them pathetic, while Leonard reacts with genuine bewilderment. However, Renya calmly explains 3 reasons why he will never become a ruler. Her own service protects the people, and besides, she will not become the wife of an arrogant fool. After this, she assures her interlocutor that she intends to remain with Theo, accusing him of participating in the prince's exile. An irritated Raoul says Theo's name again, and the girl with the ears calls him a personal enemy, comparing him to a ridiculous old tyrant, which makes him grit his teeth in rage. Raoul then exclaims, not understanding what others see in this supposedly insignificant youth, while Marietta notices the astonishing power of mana emanating from the said figure. With grim satisfaction, Raoul admits that this is the first time anyone has noticed his great sage ability, and Alicia wonders if this is truly his power. After this, he loudly declares his enormous reserves of energy and complete control over all the elements, considering this to be the greatest power, and orders his opponent to humble himself and obey. But suddenly Marietta cuts his spell, demonstrating skill, and sharply criticizes his overconfidence and lack of preparation, and Raoul looks dumbfounded at his cut hand. Martina then sends him flying with a powerful blow, warning him not to open his mouth again, while he, seething with anger, promises revenge, and at this time another character asks Martina to calm down. A bright magic circle flares in the background, and a girl in a hat concentrates on casting a spell, while a dark-haired figure watches her from the foreground. Raoul notices that the wound has disappeared and assures that there is now no evidence, while the smiling girl admits that she does not even remember the details of what happened. He then claims that it won't help them much and demands the truth if they want it, and the 2 girls discuss how one supposedly healed the damage, when in fact she simply knocked it out with a blow. Raoul grimly asserts that he and Theodule know true despair well, while another voice responds in a dismissive tone, emphasizing the growing tension between them. He then tells Sana and Martina to leave, declaring that there is nothing more to do here, and the girl, looking back, quietly promises that she will soon be next to Theo again. After this, the bright cubes of automatic crafting flash, and agricultural tools appear before the people, and the inhabitants joyfully thank Prince Theodule, full of enthusiasm to begin working in the fields. Layla asks if there are any more tasks, noting that the canals need tending, but Aisha cheerfully announces that she has prepared the ordered sandwiches while the others continue to work. Meanwhile, one of the settlers notes that the lands of death have noticeably come to life, everyone has found something to do, construction is proceeding steadily, and there is even still bread on the table. Suddenly, an alarm bell rings and someone shouts out that they are being attacked by a giant wolf, causing the others to question whether such a thing is possible. However, the huge wolf demands that they lower their weapons, assuring them that they have not come to fight, and the girl confirms his words, calling on everyone to stop and not rush to conclusions. Then the moon, a majestic beast, appears, and the young man greets her by name, and the girl standing behind confesses that she has been waiting for Theodule for a long time. Marietta hugs her petite companion tightly, asking if she is alright, then notes her overconfidence and suggests that she has had a brush with death, but the girl, surprised, asks why she is even there, and is reminded that this has already been explained. The girl with animal ears promises to give her a better gift the next time they meet, but the stunned young man sharply asks what she is planning in the light of day, not hiding his anxiety. Alicia abruptly pushes Raoul away from Theo, demanding that he stay away, and then admits that his desire to harm doesn't even try to hide, causing her fear. After this, another girl accuses the boy of trying to kiss the prince, claiming that he is more valuable than any national treasure, and threatens to execute him countless times, and he defiantly offers her to try. Raoul insists that he knows Layla and met Fenrir while she was sleeping, but Layla herself calls him a thief and assures him that he did not understand anything, and Luna, hearing the request to intervene, playfully admits that she just wanted to tease them. The Beast Girl then explains to the stunned boy that the previous kiss was only a small fraction of her power, and if she had transferred it all at once, his heart would have burst and his body would have filled with bloody discharge. Raoul explains that a kiss is the most effective way to convey a blessing, and he had to wait for the small portion to stabilize, after which Alicia calmly confirms that she understood his words. Then Layla furiously clarifies whether these were the last words and accuses someone of harming an innocent person, but another figure asks her to restrain herself and not make the situation worse. Standing on the street, Raoul thoughtfully asks if Renya is someone else, and she, pressing her finger to her lips, immersed in thought, does not give an immediate answer. When asked about jealousy, she flinches, hastily refuting the suspicion and claiming that she is only trying to protect the prince, although her interlocutor, with a grin, advises her not to hide her embarrassment and mentions a possible kiss with the owner. Alicia motions for another girl to go ahead, surprising Marietta, causing her to sharply clarify what is going on, and the girl standing next to her blushes. Finally, the maid offers to share some of her power, and the girl with cat ears calmly agrees, noting that the process will be easier since both participants are human. Raoul brushes off the question of who will go first, while Marietta, confused, asks how they even ended up in this situation. Alicia hesitantly glances at Layla, afraid of hurting her feelings, while Vine wonders what's wrong with kissing a girl. Layla then quietly makes a request to Prince Theo, causing the two companions to exchange surprised glances. They note her boldness with a slight chuckle and doubt whether everything will really happen as she suggests. The dark-haired girl tensely declares that she will not force herself, but the silver-haired companion calmly replies that such a gesture would rather be a sign of affection, assuring that no pressure is required. After this, the hesitant figure promises to take the first step and asks for a little patience, and her interlocutor agrees, admitting that this is also his first experience, and then enthusiastically declares his readiness to act. Then Raoul gently cups Alicia's face and they share a deep kiss, and she makes a barely audible muffled sound of surprise at the warmth of his touch. Layla blushes and clarifies whether everything is going well, while in the arms of a girl with long hair, who asks if the blessing has been passed on. However, Layla is visibly flustered, and the woman holding her cautiously asks if she might have done something wrong. Soon another girl laughs loudly, finding the whole thing funny, while the cat-eared one admits that it's her turn now, and the third one boldly encourages her, suggesting that she not hesitate. Leah calms her friend with a gentle gesture, placing her hand on her head, and explains that the blessing needs time to take hold. Then she calls the little ones to her, preparing to take on another important task. In the distance, a long howl of a pack is heard, and a confident woman announces that these are the children of Fenrir, who have come voluntarily under the protection of a confused young man. The girl asks if the little wolf cubs are really Luna's offspring, then suggests that they are real younger Fenrir, amazed by the unexpected discovery. Renya, petting one of the cubs, explains that the wolves belong to her older sister, and then assures the embarrassed girl that she herself is still free, after which she timidly asks if she will be able to accept the unusual babies. She acknowledges that such creatures can be challenging and understands how difficult the request itself is, but she gently strokes the animal, considering the consequences of such a decision. Raoul confidently assures Luna that there is nothing to worry about, since the little Fenrir run faster than horses and hunt monsters, and Luna herself stands with her arms outstretched by the wooden fence. The girl warmly welcomes everyone to her village, and the woman with cat ears thanks her for her hospitality, while another participant carefully clarifies if she is sure of her decision, caring for these adorable creatures. Nearby, the boy finds himself surrounded by a small pack of dogs, who joyfully lick his face, causing him to laugh, but then he tries in vain to break free and calls for help.
Marietta happily offers food to the little Fenrir, watching their curious glances, and the child sitting on a large dog points somewhere ahead, attracting the attention of the others.
The girl sits on a bench, surrounded by cheerful, loudly barking dogs, and mentally admits that she would like to be in Aisha's place, enjoying this corner of peace, while simultaneously trying to calm the playful animals. She then notices someone keeping their distance and wonders if they are okay, while a boy nearby sits quietly on a chair and watches a bird fly away outside the window. The girl with fox ears straightens her little companion's hair and, with a mischievous smile, explains that he has always been so withdrawn that he sometimes creates difficulties, and then confidently shows off his new outfit, surprising the little girl. Raoul understands why he was forced to change clothes, but admits that he liked his previous clothes better, while the girl doubts whether he will be able to walk around the village comfortably in his new look. At that moment, Marietta notices the youngest of those present. The girl learns that her older sister died during childbirth due to toxic air, and a woman standing nearby adds that the child never had time to experience maternal care, which left a deep mark on his character. After these words, she remembers how she tried to replace her deceased mother, but she understood that she was not able to take her place, and therefore watched as the little wolf cub gradually withdrew into himself and began to avoid any communication. Then she cautiously admits that she understands his behavior, and then the girl with long hair carefully offers to take on some of the care, if he would not be against such help. Meanwhile, another person declares that they will become his friend, and the owner of Animal Ears asks in surprise if she said something unnecessary, but soon, with a warm smile, assures that this is exactly the kind of person she would like to see by her side. The next second, one of the girls suddenly presses herself against the stunned young man and touches his lips, causing his eyes to widen, while another figure runs into the room and, confused, tries to understand what is happening here. After this, Renya admits that she wanted to strengthen the blessing and simply forgot, and then places her hand on the head of the alarmed Raoul, who blushes, deciding that she really did do it on purpose. A little later, the young man greets the wary wolf cub and asks if he wants to play, but the beast rushes away, leaving him without an answer, although he calls him to return. The girl notices a cautious face peeking out from behind the door, and, abruptly closing the door, she understands from the lack of flight that the animal is not at all afraid of her presence. She then suggests a game of tag, declaring herself the catcher, while the puppy happily yelps and prepares to rush after her, demonstrating a clear desire to participate in the game. The girl appreciates the wolf's swiftness and recognizes Fenrir's heritage in it, after which she decides to act more seriously, raising an earthen wall to intercept the beast and declare it captured. She then has to jump back onto the roof to escape the swift charge of a large wolf, and, catching her breath, she assures that she is not going to give in as the beast persistently pursues her through the streets. After a while, she can barely stand on her feet, sweaty and exhausted, and an hour later she bends over, trying to catch her breath, while a huge wolf silently watches behind her. Soon she notices a dog barking from above, and seeing it jump down with its tail joyfully, she decides that the real competition is only beginning now, taking a confident step forward. Raoul watches the dogs leap with alarm and instantly creates an autocraft ramp, strengthening his legs with Fenrir's blessing to catch her landing without risk. The girl throws a soft pillow towards the large wolf, activating autocraft, and the beast deftly intercepts it in the air while she prepares for her next maneuver. Then one of the game's participants jumps onto a huge pillow, falling with a dull thud, and, laughing with pleasure, announces that he managed to intercept someone, while the wolf standing nearby watches this calmly and attentively. The wolf-eared girl remarks that someone clearly has a talent for handling Fenrir, and the man lying on the soft chair asks if he wants to continue, assuming that the animals enjoy such games. Finally, the girl hugs the enormous wolf, assuring him that they've simply become friends, and the beast responds with a contented bark. Nearby, a woman with cat ears watches the scene and quietly admits that she now understands everything.